Thanks everybody for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a number of items on the agenda tonight. We're going to hopefully approve the budget for 2018-2019, in addition to sort of a number of other, of the typical items that we need to go through. So I will start off with the unfinished business, the downtown development update. So there has been, since the last meeting, further dialogue with RXR. We will not be voting tonight on anything, but what we've discussed at this meeting in several prior meetings in terms of potentially entering into an agreement with RXR for in a situation where they would basically give the library a sum of money to pay a consultant of our choosing to do evaluation of the property in exchange for a period of time where we pledge not to talk to any other developers. What we've discussed, and I think this has been discussed in prior meetings, is a 9-month period of time. I think we are getting close to an agreement that would be agreeable to us potentially and agreeable to RXR, where we would take the step and do this valuation. At the end of the valuation, both parties can walk away for any reason of their choosing. Or we could choose to enter into a further agreement to explore in a more in-depth way a potential redevelopment opportunity. So we're not going to vote on that tonight, but I did want to update everybody that we have had further discussions. The agreement is currently with our attorney for review. As we've said before, and I'll reiterate, to the extent that we are going to vote on something next month, we will post it 7 days in advance on our website so it can be viewed by any interested parties. And I think that's the update. With that, I think we will move to the public to be heard. First person, Erica Urkowski? Iskowitz, sorry.
Hi, Erica Itzkowitz, 50 Poplar Place, Rochelle, New York, 10805. I've been here before. I'm very concerned that you are going into talks with RXR. The library seems to be the only independent entity in the city now. After the mayor's speech, there are 15 planned high-rise buildings in the city. You can really take a stand and stand your ground and walk away from these talks. This library, this green, this space is a crucial part of the city, and it is very frightening to hear that you are talking to these people that have only their financial interests in mind, and I doubt have the library's interest in mind at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Deutscher.
Good evening. First of all, on International Women's Day, I realize not everyone's here, but it's nice to see that 50% of the people sitting up here are women.
But not everybody's here. No.
I know. Noted for the camera. It's noted.
Goes down.
I know. Well, for now. That's not a comment on anybody. As a concerned citizen, I know that, since my limited time coming to these meetings and talking to you, I've expressed my feeling that as a citizen and someone who loves the library, I don't want to see it change. Lily Tomlin has a line that no matter how cynical I get, I can't keep up. And I just feel like RXR, a company, billion-dollar company with lots of jobs going on, urban development, they just do not have, there might be a little bit of overlap in their interests and our interests, but the interest of the actual citizens in New Rochelle and people who use this library, people who love the Performing Arts Center, people who love the actual building, the footprint, and what goes on in the basement when books are donated to this library, I feel like RXR simply will not have our best interests in mind. They have their own financial interest solely in mind. That is their only concern. And once again, I urge you not to enter into any agreement with them. Because this one last thing, I really don't see any information that would come out of that evaluation that would be beneficial to us. This land could be worth so much money. I would still want to keep it exactly the way it is. And I love that we're getting a new boiler.
Thank you. Dorothy Oliver?
I went to the library when it's on the corner of Main Street and Pentard Avenue. I brought my daughter every Saturday to this library since she was 3 years old up until she got 12. I am saddened to hear that you are still corresponding with them, because my fear is I don't want my child, my grandchildren to go through what I went through. And I think I spoke on this earlier, that it was different. It was a house. It was in here in New Rochelle. As a child, my mother was a domestic. I had to go in the back door. I don't want that to happen to my grandchildren, because if RXR had their way, they're not going to build a new building. The residence building is going to be used for maybe the first floor, the first 2 floors or whatever, for the residents, for the library, all right? And that means these children are going to be restricted in more ways than one. Please don't do that to them. I know it's not a concern to those in the North End because they don't even use this library. This library is used by Central and Southern New Rochelle and West New Rochelle. And those children to be exposed to this, to me, it's just like saying you're second-class citizenship. You don't matter. Please do not. And I thought we had an agreement, maybe it was just something we suggested as a group of New Rochellians, that you shouldn't vote, or please do not vote until the May elections. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dan Miller. I'm a longtime New Rochelle resident. We've obviously spoken a lot about this over a long time. I imagine that the deal, as you describe it, Chuck, sounds like a really good deal, that you guys are getting a valuation that would otherwise cost a substantial amount of money for not having to give up very much, other than to say that you wouldn't negotiate with somebody else for 9 months, when my sense is you don't have anybody else that you're interested in negotiating with anyway. So it appears to be getting something of value without giving up much. It's clear that an organization like RXR isn't giving away something for nothing for no good reason. I think their clear thought of this is that the further you go down this path with them, the closer they get to taking this property and putting this library, as has been described, into a private housing building in a public-private, deal that I think, as we've gone over a number of times, my understanding is there is, I think, no example of ever having worked out well for the library. As we've discussed, and I appreciate your sharing with us your working definition of your fiduciary responsibility, to me, in reading that, you are under no responsibility to enter into this negotiation with RXR. I can't imagine what they have to offer that, in your judgment, would be better than what we have now. And as an independent body, you have no responsibility to go along with the city plans. You have no responsibility to make this good for the mayor or the development. Your responsibility is only for the betterment of the library. And I can't imagine what we have to benefit and what you have to benefit. And I urge you to not take something that appears to be such a great deal, because I personally don't believe it is such a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Marjorie Sachs?
So, moment of truth. I'm really kind of shocked to hear this. I feel like we have been speaking for years and recent months that entering into anything with RXR is a serious mistake. And I'm especially shocked that you are thinking about doing this with 2 incredibly new board members, and with all due respect, have not been elected by the people who actually own this library. I'm really shocked that you're even considering doing this. And when I'm shocked, I don't speak very well, and if I do speak, I may end up saying things that I regret. So I think I'm going to leave it with, please don't do this. And if for some reason you do decide to put this to a vote, you all have your independent voices, and I assume it's majority that rules on this, I would encourage each and every one of you, if it does go to a vote, that you vote against this. RXR is not a good neighbor, is not a good person, group of people to negotiate with. This library is precious, it's a gem, and you should protect it with all your might. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. E. Smith Kilgore? Sorry about that. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. First, happy Women's Day, Women's Month, Women's Year, woman, everything to all the women, and happy day to the men. I didn't want to exclude you, you know, I'm inclusive. I, too, am a lifelong citizen like Miss Oliver. I, too, have a daughter born and raised in New Rochelle, and I, too, brought my daughter to the New Rochelle Public Library. My daughter is 30 years old, almost 31. She speaks 7 different languages because she came to the library. She took out books, she took out tapes. She self-taught herself to learn these languages. She's traveled all over the world. She's a social worker, and the library has helped her. It has helped me. I have 40 nieces, 29 nephews, so the library is really, really a good and cool place to come. I also am surprised that you would even talk and consider selling or doing something with the library. Please leave it as it is. It is a jewel, like the young lady said. And also, for Mr. Jeffino, excuse me.
No worries.
Because you are in charge of the library, to my knowledge?
I'm the director.
Yes, you are. I'm concerned about the youth. I'm concerned about violence and gun control. I'm a youth advisor and a youth minister in town. You have, on the 3rd floor, you have a picture of America's guns and pointing to, yes, on the 3rd floor. I went up there today. And I'm concerned about that with the violence, not only in New Rochelle, but in America. This is like a how-to, showing them where to go get the gun and what to do with it. It's on the 3rd floor. You get off the elevator, it's on the right-hand side.
Is it a book, perhaps?
It's a sign telling people where to get the books or tapes or whatever. Please go up there and address that immediately. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and we'll obviously look into that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So moving on to next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. So I think, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but these, I had asked, and the original draft that was circulated, I had asked for a little bit more detail on the E-rate, to be very specific about, to make sure it was reflective of the briefing from Terry Kirchner, and I'm happy with, sort of, I'm just looking at it again. Yeah, you added it. One of the pieces I asked Tom to add in was clarifying that the filter is only intended to filter child pornography, and that ultimately people can click through the filter should they choose. So we're not actually, there's a layer of filtration, but somebody can go through it. And then Dr. Gray approved the.
She did, actually. I
WLS
spoke with her,
report.
and she revised the minutes to some degree, and her revisions have been included in this document.
Great. Any questions on the minutes, concerns? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Financial reports, I don't know if there's any, we're going to have a budget discussion, but is there anything financial report-wise to highlight?
Just Jean Manning and myself, the administrative assistant, have been looking at the budget. Thank you, Chuck. We have been examining the current year's budget. Happy to report that we're in good shape as we go forward, and nothing unusual. We've made a group of prepayments that relate to things like our state retirement funds or our WLS dues, but we're in very good shape as we round the corner and heading toward the 4th and final quarter of the fiscal year.
Thanks, Tom. Anything you want to highlight on the statistics?
Just again, that we've been popular in regards to our usage, particularly in terms of Wi-Fi. We're extremely busy. People are coming in and using our library for its traditional resources, but also the ability to access the internet with their devices. Internet access, we're seeing great numbers with our programs. Barbara Davis and her community relations staff have been programming great programs here that relate to culture, music, dance, art, and I have to thank the Friends for that, for those programs, because they provide the financial assistance that allow us to bring great programs to the community.
Thank you, Tom. I don't know, is there a new WLS report today?
Unfortunately, Dr. Gray could not come this evening. She had another obligation. She asked me to send her regrets. But we had two items on the agenda, Chuck. One that you had mentioned, which was a vote by the library board in regards to its point of view regarding E-rate, whether or not WLS should filter, and you've talked a little bit about that. And I think the board will make a resolution from one point of view or another in regards to that. The second element of my report is basically asking for another resolution in regards to the library's annual report. By law, we are required to file an annual report with the state of New York. However, it first goes through the Westchester Library System, and that annual report essentially is a document that characterizes activity levels, financial transactions, and also questions that relate to our status in terms of our policies, the services that we offer. Every year, we bring this to the board for their consideration. I have to provide some praise to Jean Manning, our administrative assistant, who got it done extremely early. It's not an uncomplicated process, but it is available tonight for your consideration. Once the board hopefully approves this document, Miss Manning will send the document off to the Westchester Library System, and then it will go to the state of New York. So those are the two.
Thank you. So maybe starting off on the E-rate, look, I think the minutes accurately reflect the discussion or the briefing from Terry Kirchner. Before we sort of, look, I'm prepared to put forth a motion that we accept, that we encourage, I guess is the right way to think about it, that we encourage the WLS to avail themselves of the E-rate money? Is that
Exactly.
And so before I do that, though, does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything they want to talk about? Okay. Well, I will then make a motion that that this board is in support of the WLS, accepting the E-rate monies with the stipulations that are outlined in our board minutes from last month.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yep. And then the next item on the report. So this is all just a very factual and statistical based report, right? This is not sort of an opinion based.
It's absolutely not an
Yeah.
opinion. It's factual information that relates to the service activities of the library as submitted by our staff to Ms. Manning. Also, the financial component is based on our financial documents. The other questions are not opinion-based. They're basically, asking the names and the addresses of the board, the policies that we have in place, the services that we offer relative to our differently aged populations, as well as our technology and other programming. It's all factual, no opinion.
Okay. And no, you don't have any, everything was straightforward. You don't have any concerns about any of the responses?
No. Again, Ms. Manning worked hard, worked with our department heads and other supervisors, have the information together, and we're actually very excited to submit this report on time, early, as a matter of fact, which is no small achievement.
Very, very good.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion?
I want to make a motion that we accept this annual report for public and association libraries, and that you will send it to WLS.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The president's
Wait,
report.
sorry.
Oh,
We didn't get to,
please.
sorry.
yeah.
It doesn't have up-to-date information. Is it as of a certain date?
Contact information or?
Well,
Does it
has-
have you guys in it?
Yes, it's because it goes to the end of.
Last year,
Oh, got it.
His name is on the report
Yes.
for that.
as opposed
Got it.
to our two newest board members. Next year, we may have different
No
information.
worries.
Assuming the election outcome is in that
Thank you.
direction. I am going to cede my president's report to the director.
Thank you. My report is fairly brief. I'm just happy to tell you that we're still waiting on our large grant from the state of New York, the $275,000 that will allow us to change the circulation area, the gateway area. Those monies are expected to arrive sometime in August, possibly September. It's hard to say when it relates to the state of New York. As you folks know, this project was fully funded by the state of New York through the Westchester Library System. There is a match amount of $92,000, and our foundation is currently looking at fundraising opportunities to provide the match money that we need so that we can in fact accept the monies that we receive from the state and go forward. We're hoping to go forward sometime in late 2018, probably in December when the library becomes a little more quiet. So as far as grants, that's one important element. The other grant is we're waiting to move forward in relation to the theater HVAC project. And we have $84,000 approximately from the state of New York to utilize in terms of this important project. Other things that are going on, I think, first of all, I'm happy to talk about the Friends. We have a Friends board meeting this Wednesday. We also have a Friends book sale that will be coming up in early April 4th, 5th, and 6th. The foundation board meeting is also very soon, March 19th. Another one will follow on May 21st, and the annual meeting will be June 19th. However, the foundation is moving forward with a series of very successful programs. Just briefly want to mention them. First of all, Law at the Library is a program that's been ongoing for nearly 2 years, in which the foundation, the library, has entered into a partnership with the New Rochelle Bar Association to bring legal topics to our residents at no charge. We have local attorneys to talk about a variety of issues. The one that is approaching on Monday, March 12th, next Monday, is help for homeowners navigating the city's building permit process. We'll be here at 5:30, extend to 7:30. The other programs have been well attended and people have been very grateful. And I know the foundation and the New Rochelle Bar Association are looking at a variety of other topics that relate to our citizens' lives and its intersection with the law. So that's one thing. The other ongoing program that I'm happy to highlight is the Foundation's Cocktails and Conversation. The next one will be April 26th at 6:30. The title is Writing Politics in the Age of Trump, an evening with two New Rochelle authors. The person who will be the moderator is a gentleman by the name of Stuart Kerchevsky, who is a literary super agent and is here in New Rochelle. And we have two authors. One is David Friend on the Naughty 90s, The Triumph of the American Libido. Okay. And another author is one of our foundation board members, Dr. Amy Bass, who is a professor at the College of New Rochelle. She is also in charge of the honors program and has contributed to our foundation and our library for a number of years.
Just published her.
She published a book,
That's what she's going to be talking about.
One Goal.
Oh, okay.
One Goal, and it's a book that actually has received tremendous critical reviews from all the important literary review sources like Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Kirkus Review. So she's really written a great book, and I think it's worth everyone's consideration to attend this event. That'll be April 26th.
Where will it be?
It will be at Alvin and Friends Restaurant, which is, of course, right across the street from us on Memorial Highway, and 6:30.
We have the Confederation of, I think we agreed to,
The neighborhood
Yes.
association?
I'm just,
Neighborhood, yeah, I'm gonna get it wrong. but yes.
in our con, or something, and you were talking Confederation of Neighborhood Association.
Yes, correct.
And we can manage
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, no, just fine.
So we have that. Also would like to report on honorees who are part of the library family, one being Dr. LaRuth Gray, who you folks know is the Westchester Library System representative for the city of New Rochelle for our library. She's not able to make it tonight, maybe out of modesty, because she is indeed being honored by the Arts Westchester Association, the Education Award. That'll be on April 11th, and it's an honor well-deserved. Her contributions to the community certainly relate to the library. She was on the board for 10 years. She was the president. She's now on the WLS executive board, but prior to that, she had a very successful career here in the city, in the school district as the assistant superintendent, and has been involved in many other organizations. So she's being honored, and we're proud of that. And also, one of our newest board members, Daniel Bonet, is being honored on March 21st. It is the Chamber of Commerce, the Dinner Dance 2018, and Daniel will be honored for his contributions to the community. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
The last thing I want to mention is actually an issue that came up recently in the New York Times, and that is the sad issue of the opioid epidemic in our country and in our state and in our county. And as you folks know, there are people who are struggling with this issue. Oftentimes, they're in an extreme health situation, and many organizations in the community, including libraries, have been involved in being given training for naloxone to assist these people. Chuck sent me the article about this very serious issue, and we'd been looking into it prior to that. And there's a number of things that I want to just very briefly talk about. First of all, I polled some of my colleagues in Westchester and asked my colleagues, the library directors in the county, about their experiences. And I got 11 responses, and 6 of those 11 libraries said they indeed have had training, and they do administer assistance when and if it's necessary. One library said they would most certainly do it, but the police station is across the street, and so it's not necessary, though the director was a former EMT and said she would most definitely do it. And the 8th library is a library that is in the process of considering whether or not they would allow staff to do this. They've already had training, and they're offering public training for people in the community. There is one library that has said they do not provide training. They do not provide the service, but they provide public training, and 2 libraries will not train and will not provide any assistance. I've asked the company that we work with in regards to our guards whether or not the guards would be allowed to provide the service. They said they'd get back to me. I personally think, just from my point of view, that I think it's a service that we should provide. It would have to be on a voluntary basis by staff. I would be willing to be trained. I have friends that have been trained. I have one friend that assisted somebody, and it's not incredibly complicated, but the difference you can make is the difference in saving somebody's life. And So I'm just putting that out there for your consideration, whether it be tonight or a future meeting. The other component is public training. And the county apparently has a grant that allows them to provide public training in a variety of venues. As I've mentioned, there are a few libraries that do that. I've reached out to Barbara Davis and asked her if she could just investigate how viable it was. She said she would get back to me. I also think that this is something that we should consider. It's tragic. It's a real public health concern, and I think as part of our, frankly, my personal point of view, part of our role here at the library is to help people. Now, we all fully understand that when we encounter a situation like this, absolutely the first step you take is to contact 911 and ask for people who are trained, who have done this time and again to arrive. But if need be, I think we should be in a position to consider it. That's
We should
it.
make a motion for that type of training, or is that an administrative decision?
I certainly think it would be nice at least to have a sense of the board about whether or not they'd be in favor of this. I don't know if we need a motion, but I'd love to hear what you all think about what I just discussed.
So with personal experience, I'm trained in a Narcan. I actually did it at a library. I can't remember which one.
You did it at another library?
At another library, yeah. But that's when it was being launched by the county. It was a big push that they were doing it, special sessions that they were doing it. It not only do you know how to use the syringe and the medicine, but you learn also the aspects of triggering and signs and all that. So I think it's something of value. And I would also add too is the mental health first aid. I think it's something to look into as well, because that's something that I think it's good for staff and people in the community just to consider. It's new. It's a new first aid kind of concept. It's called the mental health first aid.
Daniel, is that offered through your organization, the
It's offered
county?
a lot of organizations, from the Guidance Center to, they have the adults mental health first aid, as well as the youth and children mental health first aid. And WJCS, I believe, does the youth and children, and Guidance Center does the adults.
WJCF?
WJCS, yes,
Westchester Jewish
Children's Association.
Children's,
Yeah,
yeah.
something.
So, I'm sorry, just to ask you a question. So the sort of training that you detailed, does it go to the staff members of organizations, or the members of the public, or a variety? Yeah.
Both. It's both members of the public as well as staff. Again, speaking the same language across the board as a community, I think it would be a good thing to kind of begin here.
I think I'm certainly
Yeah,
very
I think
supportive.
it's, yes,
Yeah.
I'm very supportive. Yes, I'm very supportive. When you do the training, something I might be interested as well, so I'd like to know when you do it, yeah.
I just want to echo support like colleagues have, and I'd be curious to the extent you have info about the mental
Yeah,
health
I'll
first
forward
aid.
it.
I think that would be
Rolling
worthwhile,
that out
too.
as well.
It's also an issue that we face
Yeah.
nearly every day.
And that's, we do face that.
And, our staff is sensitive to people who are struggling with issues, but it's always good to have some background, some information, and frankly, to also have, if it's possible, a resource to go to when we encounter someone who's struggling. The simple approach is to ban them, but maybe the better approach might be to try to find a provider who can provide some assistance.
Yeah, so I think you have our support to
Yeah.
pursue that.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Tom, just a much less important addendum on this help for homeowners navigating the city's building permit process. That's this Monday. I was brought in as a pitch hitter. I'm going to be the lawyer.
Oh, you are?
Along with, I don't know if that will draw down attendance, but I'm along with Paul Vaca, the building official, and John Woodruff, the architect. So
Right,
I hope you can make it.
Yeah, no, I think it looks like a great program. We've had upwards of 25 people in this venue for the variety of classes. It, relates to purchasing a home, if you're working through a divorce, just a variety of things. And I've been working with the foundation and looking for other areas where we could, explore a relationship with CBA. there are so many issues that impact the community. It would be great to have an unbiased sort of resource to learn a little bit more if people need to.
Maybe you could consider doing one about the new tax laws that just went through for the public to kind of.
Yeah,
No, nobody knows about the new tax.
I think that's a great. I think that's a great
good
idea.
idea.
We've been talking about the issues of people who have been incarcerated and how we can have a class to help them get back into the community. We've talked about parents who are struggling with some special needs children in terms of the law. We've talked about if there's a situation where an elderly person or not is in danger, and how do we work within the system to help make decisions. There's so many things that we all deal with on a daily basis. So thank you. I think the tax law is a good idea.
I did want to just say one thing to Tom. I just wanted to thank you guys, you and Barbara, and then I had asked some questions to Jean and you. But when, as we know, we've kind of been without power, some of us in Rochelle have been without power, and I asked you right away, is the library open? And you guys were just very willing to talk through any different scenarios. You were open, which was great, but just the willingness and the availability of the library.
Thank you.
And your willingness to kind of hear me when I was like, well, what if we can do it, was just wonderful, and I just wanted to publicly, and I know somebody else was on some of the emails, but I just wanted to publicly just thank you.
Thank you.
Because that's who we are, and it's really, really important for us to be open and available. And
Thank you, Deirdre. You know what's so interesting is we've had some other natural disasters in the not-so-distant past, Hurricane Irene and Sandy. And in particular, Sandy was devastating for the community, and the library was an important part of the response to help people. We were open extra hours. We filmed movies for young children. We had coffee. And so we're happy to do that. And if there's an instance where we need to do over and above, the staff is extremely willing. You know, in this instance, we didn't encounter the same kind of demand, but we're ready, and it's part of our mission. And on behalf of the staff, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Personnel report, Tom?
Do you need
I'm going to defer
to me?
to the
Okay.
Personnel
Okay.
Committee, and there may be an action following
Okay.
the Personnel Committee's report, Chuck.
Oh, you want me to go now?
Do you want to go now, so we just go out of turn just for this
Oh,
instance?
am I out of order?
Yeah,
no.
we can
Oh.
do it now.
Well,
Or no, tell me what you want me to do.
I think maybe now is a good time, just,
All right, so, okay, so, but you want me to do all of these? You don't want to do any of these?
whatever you'd like.
Okay. So we had, the Personnel Committee met, and we had some outstanding issues. And so I just have one question of Chuck. On this one, do I talk about this, or how do I?
It's a personnel matter involving a person. That I need to remind myself whether we say this in the meeting or not.
We should say it.
Okay,
Oh,
okay,
okay,
yes.
okay. Okay, so we had some patrons that came to us and were banned, and the Personnel Committee spoke about both of those instances. In the one instance, we are going to let it stand. In another instance, we are actually going to suggest that the person can return if they agree to some sort of mental health counseling. And that we would be able to actually, we don't have to know anything about it, but that we would be able to check in and know that it's actually happening. Because, as you mentioned, when things happen, you can just kick people out, but that doesn't really help the community. The people are then now in the community, and then they come back, and the problem comes back, and we haven't done anything to help them. And now we've brought the problem back. So we're hoping that we can at least provide some help. So with the two instances, one, we're actually going to suggest that they can come back, but they have to have services, and the other one we're just kind of keeping. That was one. We also decided to recommend that the library, I'm recommending to you, and I guess for this I have to make a motion, I'm not sure, to approve a salary increase of $1 for the pages in order to meet the New York minimum wage law. So we have to give them one more dollar to meet that law. So do I have to make a motion?
You do, but I'm supposed to, it'll take a little while, there's 11 pages, name the name of the page, the current salary, and the salary
Go for
that
it.
we'll go to, and I'll do it quickly.
Okay. Yes, it is.
Yes, to January
Yes.
1st. Our page begins with Rosette T. Beckman, whose hourly rate is $9.74. We're recommending that her new hourly rate be $10.74. Page Karina Cortez, whose wage is $9 per hour, recommending that that wage be upgraded to $10. Page Dawn D. Nicolo, whose wage is $9.25, wage be upgraded to $10.25. Our page Beatriz Galloso Alvarez, her wage is $9 per hour. We recommend that it be upgraded to $10 per hour. Jessica Hernandez, her wage is $9.44. Recommend that her wage be upgraded to $10.44. We recommend that Jishan Jifrey, her wage is $9 per hour. Her current wage is $9, be upgraded to $10. Diara Johnson Smith, her wage is $9.20. Wage be upgraded to $10.20. Page Robert Klein, his wage is currently per hour $9.44. We recommended that it be upgraded to $10.44. Page Urania Moraga, her wage is $10.30. We recommend that the upgraded wage be $11.30. Page Sabathia Samban, wage is $9 per hour. Upgrade her wage to $10 per hour. Last but not least, Alina Varghese, her wage is $9 per hour. Her upgraded wage be $10 per hour.
So I'd like to, and just so you know that we actually have a legal right to not participate in this, but we do, and we are now going to consider these page raises on a yearly basis when we do the contracts and everything. Well, that's not yearly, but we're going to do it yearly. We just haven't in the past, but now it's going to be a part of what we do. So I make a motion to accept the pay raises for the pages as Tom stated them.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Daniel.
Aye. All in favor? Aye.
Great. So the next issue is we have non-union staff. So when we do the contracts, the unions actually, they get their increases as part of the contract. We have non-union full-time staff that also deserve increases. So we have decided to recommend to you guys, to the board, an increase of 2.5, which is the same as the contract of the union staff. So that would be for the non-union full-time staff.
2.5%.
That's it, yeah.
For staff members,
Yes,
Barbara Davis and Thomas Tofino.
okay. And that's just making them in line with what we did for the contract, for the union. Then also, we are recommending Jean Manning's salary to be increased to $78,871 in order for her, to bring her in line with the salary classification for our librarian 3. And the mechanism for all these increases is what we did for the union staff. And I would just like to say on the 3 people we mentioned, they are invaluable to the work we do here, invaluable. So I could not imagine not giving them an increase. And I could not imagine not supporting them, all 3 of them. So I recommend these increases. Do I have to name them and everything again?
No, I think you just
You said it.
Okay. I make a motion to the increases as stated.
Second. Third. Give it to Whitney.
All righty.
All in favor? Aye.
Finally, we have the project manager update, and we are going to instruct our legal representative to send a letter to the project manager informing her that the library has no intention of providing payment for her outstanding invoices because we have already paid what was agreed upon in the contract. Okay? Do I need to make a motion?
I think so.
Before I do that, do you guys have any questions? Because this has been a long-standing issue.
I'll second.
I didn't even make a motion. I make a motion that the lawyers send a letter to our project manager. Go ahead.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm done.
You've been busy.
I'm sorry.
Personnel Committee's been very busy.
Well, we had one. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're onto the Budget Committee. So I'll take the lead here, and then others on the committee can chime in as they see fit. So,
I'm ready.
Just to the board members, it has the email that I sent on top of the package. So we took the same approach as we took last year and probably the year before, where the Budget Committee, which is myself, Yadira, and Deirdre, worked very closely with Tom and with Jean to look at several different scenarios for the budget. Specifically, we looked at 4 scenarios. We looked at, one that had about a 5% increase, one that has a 3.91% increase, one that kept the budget increased to 1.84% in line with the tax cap, and one that had a flat budget. And, just to give a little insight into the whole budgeting process, so Tom goes through, with Jean and with others, a very exhaustive exercise of going out to, the staff in the library and really understanding what our patron needs are, what we're hearing, where we feel we're able to meet obligations, where we feel we're not able to meet what the needs are really in the community. And so, this is a detailed exercise. It's not like we just take last year's budget and sort of say we're going to do this again. So, and there are some, there are frankly a lot of costs that are in the budget that are not particularly controllable by us. Things like, benefits, medical benefits, retirement benefits. These are all, sort of mandated things. And, we have a contract, a union contract that stipulates certain wage increases that we're not going to go through here, but, we agreed to that contract, and so we have that. So there's a fairly, limited amount of stuff for us to have, impact on. And so, where we've come out in terms of a recommendation is we're recommending the scenario that has an increase of 3.91%. So not the highest increase, not the flat budget. And I'll walk through quickly kind of what that would imply. The 3.91% would imply an increase in the annual budget of $205,557.12 to be precise, which I know Jean always likes to be. The big drivers in the year over year, approximately $200,000 increase, about a little over $50,000 relates to full-time salary increases, including some of the things we just discussed, right? So, our biggest cost, out of our, budget of, I'm just looking for the numbers and I probably won't be able to find them, but, out of our budget, which is, I'm not going to find them, but this year, 5.4 million, the salaries and benefits are, 3.9. So you can see that by far is our biggest cost. So, 50 and change relates to compensation increases. 40,000 is expected increase in medical insurance costs. So that's really sort of mandated. We're part of, the state benefit systems. And so we're given sort of assumptions that we build into the budget. So these first 2 items are not, particularly controllable, though I will add on the compensation increase, that does include, and keep me honest here, Tom, an additional librarian.
Our librarian 3, Kathy Cronin, retired, and we named Mary Thompson, librarian 2, as acting librarian 3. With the various scenarios, the scenario that's nearly 5%, it would mean that we would fill the position in July of 2018. The next one, the 3.91% increase, would call for filling the position in September of 2018. The 1.84 cap budget would call for filling the position in January of 2019, and the 0% increase would mean that essentially the position would be left vacant for the entire year.
Thanks, Tom. So that's one of the drivers there. And then, so just moving on to one of the, another $50,000 relates to an increase in the library materials budget. That's very much in response to what we're hearing from our patrons. Part of that's, large print books. Part of that is books that are in other languages, including Spanish, Arabic, maybe other languages as well. We did, the materials budget last year. We cut the materials budget last year to be in line with the actual spending from the year before, and so we knew we were going to be tight this year on the budget. I think. We're being responsive to what we're hearing and trying to, increase that. So that's, in response to, our what we're hearing from our patrons.
Can I interject a smidge?
Yeah, please.
Sorry. With respect, because I just want to make sure we flesh out the materials piece.
Yeah.
In particular, highlighting two things: how far behind or limited we were in our patrons' accessibility to the ebook, Kindle kind of downloadable books. I mean, almost $10,000 compared to well over $20,000, $30,000 in comparable sort of library networks. Tom did the research, and he did express that there were just demand for more accessibility to those kinds of books. So beyond just the language and the large print also being super important for, just accessibility to diverse needs.
Yep.
And then flagging again that within that budget was, Tom feels that at the library we have an opportunity for our teens to have just a bit more tech training, but that part of the reason why they're not participating is we don't really have the staff to sort of provide some of the, close the loop, if you will. And so I would just argue that given everything that's been going on, we as a library, just everybody has said this. Tom, you've said it even today. Our role is to help people. The librarians do everything they can to go over and beyond. Deirdre, you've sort of talked about that as well tonight, and certainly others as well. So just reminding everyone that this might be our opportunity to pitch in a little bit with the effort with teens and just giving them strong, safe outlets that also help train and prepare them for whatever their workforce or whatever their sort of goals in the future will be.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then the other big piece is around $50,000 for, the Finance Committee hasn't met to approve this yet, but we're likely to convert a bond anticipation note, which is a short-term financing that's appropriate to have in place while you're doing the projects that it's financing, but once the numbers settle and the projects are done, it's prudent to convert it into a longer-term debt instrument, a bond, and so we've included issuance costs and principal pay down of $50,000 that will enable us to convert the short-term bond anticipation note into a long-term bond. And there are some other, there are certainly, some other ups and downs, but those are sort of the major items. I think the only other increase that I would sort of mention that didn't make this list, I think we budgeted some additional money for security for the new painting. Right. Were there any additional security monies we budgeted?
No, actually.
And staff development?
Staff development.
$10,000 for staff development?
Well, actually $10,000 for more programming for our children, teens, and adults, technology, education, cultural. So that's a major piece. We certainly have great assistance from our friends. They give us quite a lot of money, but we're finding that we're not able to attract as many people as we feel we should in regards to teen programming, in regards to technology for adults who are looking for assistance. We're looking for additional money so that we can double our Wi-Fi capacity, I should say our broadband capacity.
Yeah, that is a necessity. I was here,
Yeah.
remember that night we were here and we were trying to get on and it was 6 o'clock, maybe,
Right.
I don't know.
It wasn't that
and we
late,
could,
no.
maybe 5, and I could not get online. And you said it's like this when a lot of people are here.
It slows
was
down
terrible.
once 3:30 arrives.
It was terrible.
And we just need to upgrade this capacity. And actually, because we have a great contract through the Westchester County, we can, for $4,500, double our broadband from 50 megabytes to 100. It's just,
But increasing the broadband, would that allow the library to have more IP addresses for devices? Because it's all based on IP addresses, right? So
It is.
the amount of IP addresses, the more devices you can
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. It's something that we know we need to do. I mean, there's a variety of little things that really aren't so little. Workforce development money so that our terrific job coach, Rebecca Mason, can devise a series of targeted workshops to help people find work. Yadira was very eloquent about the materials budget. We're looking to increase monies for ebooks. Our Spanish speakers, our collection doesn't match our usage in terms of our Spanish-speaking population. Large print, more workforce development books. We're looking for more teen monies for our teen collection, audiobooks, DVDs, children's material, and bestsellers. So we really targeted particular populations in there. So this $50,000 increase there will help us really actually increase our status. Currently, out of 38 libraries, where in terms of per capita support, we're 34. We're below. We need to increase that. And we did research that showed what other libraries are purchasing, and we're behind libraries like Mount Vernon and Greenberg and Scarsdale, of course, but even White Plains and other peer libraries.
And our utilization tends to be very high, right? If I remember the stats from last year,
Yep.
teens in particular,
And all those ebooks will cut across our children, our teens, our adults. We're actually starting a very exciting conversation with a vendor that provides e-Spanish and e-audio Spanish books too. So that's something else we're going to go forward with if this budget gets approved.
Don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
I know, I'm not. You know, I'm so excited, my cup
Just
runneth
kidding.
over.
Just kidding. So I think, I'm not going to go through the one that keeps it into the tax cap and then the flat one in detail, but the one that keeps it within the tax cap, basically you cut out the additional library material spending, and you cut out all the things that were accretive, like the Tom just went through, that you just basically cut that out. So you'd sort of like minimum to, kind of keep things going at current service levels. And then if you go to the flat budget, you're cutting, service. You're cutting Saturdays, Sundays, and it becomes, a very dire scenario that we would never want to go to unless absolutely we had no other choice. And so, but we do. And so, I think we're going to recommend the 3.91% increase, which, does slightly delay the librarian 3.
That's fine.
But I think we believe enables us to really meet, what's been asked for in terms of, meeting the needs of our patron base. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything.
I would second that and just highlight, again, the 3.91 increase just shows a bit of a concession and a compromise from the library staff, because Tom and Jean really did help us finesse the numbers and still sort of meet the demand, both as staff and just materials, but also help elevate our infrastructure a bit more to meet the high utilization rate that we have by the community and across Westchester. So I would, I'm also, as a member of the Budget Committee, very supportive of the 3.91 budget increase.
And the thing that I think I would highlight too, if I'm just, and just correct me if I get something wrong here, but this percentage increase is, I think, lower than what we've had in the
Much
past
lower.
couple of years.
Our last increase was approximately 6.5.
6.5, yeah.
So this is
Which I
part
was
of it.
very much in favor if we got our bilingual children's library and
Yep.
more Arabic material, let's be clear, but I recognize that everybody has to pay for this, so.
And in prior years also, we've covered some of the increase by dipping into the fund balance, which is not a sustainable practice, and we're not doing that. So this is, we're not sort of messing with kind of our, our reserve fund, which is within acceptable parameters. So, with that, you have anything you want to add?
No, but you two, you're the ones who are talking about this in the public a lot more, because you'll go out, so just know that as well.
And we'll work on
We'll
the
help you
talking
work with
points.
you.
And I hope to go to some of them, because I
Yeah.
just remember sometimes we went without budget
Yeah,
numbers and it was
yeah.
awkward. So I hope to be
Yeah.
there just to help back you up in this
Yeah,
initial
we
go-around.
should go with you,
Yeah.
because it does, yes, we'll go with you, but these are your this is you guys, so.
Know it cold, in other words.
People will ask.
Backwards and
People will
forwards.
start to ask.
Yeah.
But people are generally very supportive.
Yeah, I'm confident.
Supportive of the library.
Oh, it sounds,
Yeah, supportive
thank
of the
you for
library.
your hard work, Budget Committee. It sounds like you guys really delved in and, yeah, it's amazing work. And I actually have a question. Where did you, I think maybe you've said this already, but where did the feedback to know, like, the needs, where did that come from? I mean, the people who are here and they speak to the,
Right. First of all, we have an ongoing dialogue with our patrons in regards to programming, in regards to materials, And those are two areas that and computer access. And so we know that our broadband was not meeting the needs of the community. We know that our materials budget was really rather weak and was not helping all the populations that I talked about. And so we've had these conversations, and we also did the comparative analysis where, again, in a number of areas, we were really lower on the scale. And we're not seeking to be in the top 5. That's not realistic, but we'd like to be able to provide resources to our public at a reasonable rate as based on comparative statistics with the county and based on conversations we've had with our public and also based on our long-range plan, which I have.
Which I have too, and I've read.
I have a copy of it. You got it.
But also, I feel like just because I really did, only my first year on the budget committee, for example, Tom looked at a popular book that had been printed in large print, and he just tracked the data, just even internal usage. And so it had gone through circulation like 16 times within a very short window of release, for example. And I feel like he has developed a really good reputation with other librarians in the area. And so he's able to really quickly get stats to report back on. So because I definitely feel like we pushed for stats and utilization rates, and he was able to provide that. So it's some part anecdotal from a tremendous staff who stays in touch, but also just really documented. So I just want to make sure, it sounded very humble, and I just felt like you did a lot, Tom, to sort of provide that info for us.
Right, and I mean, for example, here, I'll give you some documents from the state report, that was submitted that talks about our personnel levels, talks about our per capita support overall, talks about our materials budget per capita support. And, again, we're a great library. We're a leanly staffed library, but, we are seeking not, top of the pile sorts of financial resources, but we're looking to have the money to be able to support the needs of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before the vote, I have just brief comments and some questions. Comments are that I was on the Budget Committee, I think, for 5 years, and I've never seen such a great explanation, well laid out, easy to understand, even for me. So I appreciate the work you guys did. It's, I think, very impressive. I want to reinforce the comment about large print materials. I have an aunt that is 96, and it is very difficult to find large print material because it's not profitable for the publishers because people on ebooks can just increase the font size. Well, if you're not using an e-reader, it means somebody that as an educator and an intellectual can't read anymore. And as I get older, I'd prefer more large print books too. So I think that's great. The questions, I just didn't, the fees for services, just looking at, did that, in the budget we're approving, or possibly approving, it's like a $900 difference to the limousine budget, the full. Why? What's the thinking there?
Again, we had to make some very tough decisions. The decrease in the fees for services relates to the workshops that we were planning to offer through our job coach. She had quoted $2,400. That was the more expensive one. We brought it down $900, actually with the idea that I've been in touch with the Westchester Library System grants person, Pat Brigham, and she tells me there's a number of grants that really focus on workforce development and that we could easily, knock on wood, be able to obtain that gap money, that $900 plus, so that we could provide the programs that are that we'd like to offer.
Is that under professional training, or is that fees for services?
Fees for services.
And where would attorneys' fees go? Where are
Audit.
they under?
You mean our attorney's fees?
Yes.
Yeah, it would come under the audit account. And let me find that account for you.
Yeah, this is good.
It's under,
And what's the differential on the, I'm looking at what was spent, but
What's the L number, Tom? I mean,
Um,
it's the, I don't see a number.
oh, on the left, it's L something. Okay.
Legal,
It's under audit and support. It's right here, Chuck. There's legal master
Yeah.
development,
Yeah.
legal zoning, land use valuation
Do you see
consulting.
it?
Not yet.
Here it is, right here.
Oh, audit and support system?
Right.
And
what's
what
your question?
was,
And-
I guess I just want to
We have not.
wonder what the thinking was, because I see a differential on this as well, this category between the two.
Between this and the Cadillac, so between 5,000, so you, no,
Right.
but we have more. In ours, we have 2,500.
Under the zoning land use, which would presumably be
No, we don't have 2,500.
under zoning land use, I think you do. Oh, no, this is, I'm looking at adopted, I'm sorry.
Proposed,
Proposed,
5,000.
proposed, we have 2,500, the same,
Yeah, Yeah,
and 5,
okay.
under the,
Zoning land use,
Share with you,
nothing.
so in
What it-
terms of your presentation, you and Daniel,
So 5,
heavy usage and lower financial.
5 under zoning land use, and then
so it looks like the
5.
same as what was adopted last year.
Number 38.
I actually put in your packet all.
Okay.
So what was
why-
the-
So what's the question?
What's the thinking? Why the differential in the two, oh no, again, I'm looking at actual.
Might not want to read it all,
So
but at least you have the.
so you looked at the
look
adopted,
and see how
right?
things have
2000,
evolved, where we spent.
2018? And the proposed is the same number.
Right, and where is this under the 4 budget proposals? Do they differ in terms of the spending under the 4 budget proposals?
From the Mercedes to the.
Right, is there a breakdown?
I guess my question is, are you asking, did we do less, or instead of asking for the most money for the legal, why didn't, to me, I don't understand why that's a question.
Because we
Tell
may
me.
have certain costs going forward, and I'm just wondering what the budgetary thinking was,
In
and
keeping it the same?
if it is being kept the same, versus what is the proposed, if it was the Cadillac budget. I just want to know what the thinking
So
was,
he's
if there was
saying
a
we
different
kept
amount.
it the same.
We kept- in all
kept
the
it the
versions.
same.
In all the versions,
In all the
we kept-
versions, there was no
Then-
difference.
Then that is satisfied.
Okay.
On the SCAR and tax certiorari,
I'm like, okay, that's Chuck.
No, I mean, I think we discussed it, and based on what we're seeing, this is our best guess as to what the reality is.
Yeah.
it's
Almost.
just the numbers on the tax certiorari were like,
Low?
were non-existent, and then
We
previously
talked about that, though, right?
high.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Originally, when we had to start paying tax certs, we were told to budget
We've
$99,000. We weren't using it,
For tax certiorari or for SCAR?
tax certs.
Okay.
So we weren't using it. So now that we have been carrying it, it was too much money, and we ended up every year having extra.
Mhm.
So we lowered that number. Well, actually, this current fiscal year, the number was lowered considerably. And SCARS went up a bit.
Yeah.
SCARS, we had at 10,000, now I think we have it at 12. Because that had to go up a little bit, because we're seeing it.
Because it was about 12.5 last year, right?
Right.
This year. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion? Is
Should be the Budget
inappropriate for
Committee.
us to make- Okay, we do make them, all right. I'll make a motion to pass the, is pass the right word? To support the 2018, 2019 budget that implies a 3.9%, 3.91% increase in the year-over-year budget. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Tom.
Thank
For all
you,
your work.
guys.
Thank you, Budget Committee.
Thank you, Budget
It's-
Committee, too. And thank Gene Manning, worked
Yes.
really hard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. I feel like we don't say
Yes,
thank you
Chuck.
to you enough.
Yes,
I feel like
Chuck.
we don't say thank you to you
The
enough.
unsung hero.
My pleasure.
He is.
Building and grounds, do you guys have a?
No.
I forget who chaired. No report today? Okay. No report from building and grounds. Can you?
I have one question. You know the status of the walkway at the children's library?
Actually.
You want to just repeat that?
Sure. Quentin Jacobs asked for a report regarding the walkway at the Children's Library. A portion of it is in disrepair. Actually, Quentin, I received an email from our mason this afternoon in which he's expecting to come next week to start the process of replacing the bricks that are in disrepair. My only concern was that, is it too early based on the weather? Because we wanted to make sure that it would be, you know,
Shouldn't work when it's freezing.
right. It should be, I'm losing my train of thought here. We should install it at a point in time when the weather is conducive to it. And he has not responded to me. But my concern is that we not do it too early and build a walkway that will fail. And so I'm waiting to get a response. And as you know, that the monies that we're using are monies from our contingency budget, and it will restore the walkway to its previous state and also include all the bricks for the generous donors that participated in that capital program when the partnership of the Huguenot Children's Library brought the Huguenot Children's Library back online.
I think that the criterion might be the day he works with any concrete and plus 3 days. Shouldn't have any freezing temperatures.
Right, that's why I'm, given the fact that Sunday and Monday may bring poor weather once again, I thought the announcement that they were thinking about doing it on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, I emailed him and said, I'd really like to postpone till later March or April when we can be more hopefully certain about the weather. Yeah, but it's a conversation, but not really, because we're the customers and we'd like to wait till the weather's better.
I think you should use your judgment for sure. So moving on to community relations.
So community relations, just real quick, Barbara sent me an email, she wanted me to just announce real quick some things that are happening at the library. A reminder of the free tax assistant that's happening all the way until April 17th. Then there's a French Film Festival for Children that is happening March 24th, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. For 4 to 6-year-olds, and then 1 p.m. to 2:30 for 7 and older. And then the free creative writing classes on Saturdays, starts March 24th to April 21st.
What time?
5 sessions from 1:50 to 4:50.
Is this for kids?
I
it's
believe
for
adults. I believe so. Yeah.
I think movie overlaps with one of the times.
Correct. And then obviously the preschool programs still continue and all that good stuff that's happening, and obviously the law at the library stuff is happening as well. But one thing that I wanted to mention is our last meeting we spoke about our kind of nameplates or badges. There should be a colored copy. So this is, Tom was generous enough to reach out to people at WLS about they're not this big. They're not this big. They're actually smaller, right?
They're much smaller.
They're much smaller. It does not come with the carpet,
Here.
but you would wear them here.
Like where? I wasn't at the meeting. Where would we wear
Where you would wear them to any events that we would be present or kind of involved in the community and kind of represent the board. Yeah.
When you were at the meeting?
You're new and, would love this.
We're thinking of going more of silver color, not gold. But, and then,
That'd be us, not WLS.
No, correct. It'd be us, our logo and all that good
You can
stuff.
get the little Huguenot, what is it?
Actually, yeah,
And
if you
Chuck's
work in,
crown.
it's the France thing. If you work in purple, that'd be great.
I guess, Tom, we can reach out to the design.
And you know what? We'll get designs back. I'll send them to Daniel, and Daniel will share with everybody. Yes.
Make a formal motion.
No, I'm not raising my hand. She was asking me to.
See it.
Yeah, and it's a magnetic
It's
back.
magnetic.
So
Very
no
strong
things.
magnet.
Dig it into your
So you're not pinning your chest.
You're not pinning or ruining your nice suits.
And it's fairly, pretty inexpensive. I think the quote was $10 per $10 per
Is it in the
pin.
budget?
We're going to pass the hat, Greg.
It will be.
So do we want to make like a motion? Should we
Sense of the board.
vote on it, proceed? Yeah? Do we have to vote on
Sense of the board
it?
that
Yeah?
you wish to proceed to
I don't know.
follow this great initiative by one of
Okay,
our newest
thank you,
trustees.
appreciate it.
I think we go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's.
So can I
it's
make
great
a
idea.
motion to,
Is this your first motion?
yeah, it's my first one.
That's why you want
To
to-
proceed with a fantastic nameplate
I second.
for, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome.
I don't vote and I say aye.
Can I make a motion for
Seconded
Chuck
by
to have a
anonymous,
crown on
who
top
doesn't
of
have a
his
nameplate.
Mine better be bigger than everybody else's.
Chuck's to be an inch
We're all
Why don't
on
we
the
just call it Regal?
with sparkles, ready to go.
I was too, like, why is there a piece of carpet?
And can I just, do you mind if I add a couple things to your report? I wanted to thank Tom and Hannah, who attended the Library Advocacy Day up in Albany. Thank you.
Welcome.
And then I wanted to, I think both Whitney and Daniel did the radio show, right? WVOX with Hannah, so thank
Yes, I
you
was bumped to March.
for doing that.
I've never done
I'm signed up for April, so we're going to try to make a collective effort to be more supportive of that effort. So thank you. Yeah,
On the radio.
thanks, both of you for doing it, and Greg for you signing up. And
It's an amazing thing that she volunteers her time to talk about the library for an hour on the air, and I mean, it was so much fun. I mean, I had fun. Daniela and I had fun talking to Hannah. She's such a
And no
fun
dead
character.
air
Oh, never.
No,
with Dana.
no.
Never was.
Talk about
There's
No, I think
overflow.
that's a great point, though, that we should all collectively try to continue to be very supportive of Hannah's efforts because she's out there and doing
Yeah, I'll
stuff.
do it the
and
next one.
and yeah, so I think
April, Chuck?
I think you're doing April. You're March. I'm April. So somebody can certainly
do
join
May.
me or do another month.
I'll do May.
I don't need the whole spotlight for me, contrary to popular belief.
Despite that,
You may not want another trustee after
Oh,
this point.
Okay.
I would also
Depending on my
say
performance or lack
if we can get the I know that the producers of the radio show will send a link to the show, and that we should all try to help spread the word and broadcast and share with our own networks and spread the word
And
about
call
the.
in from wherever you are.
Call in,
that
yep,
day.
yep. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's just a really amazing thing, and we should encourage her as much as we can because it really benefits the library.
Super volunteer.
Just moving on, so finance, treasury, and audit. I think we have a good report in that I think we're in a position. So as folks may remember, we've been long toiling away on an agreement with the school district that sort of memorializes their responsibilities in terms of issuing various forms of debt on our behalf, and our responsibilities in terms of, timelines of when we need to get them information, what type of information we need to get them, how the, costs will be allocated between us and them and these sorts of issuances. And so after much back and forth with, myself, Greg, Tom, our attorneys, Quentin, et cetera, and the school district attorneys, I think we have an agreement that we're happy with and that Tom and Jean are happy with. And so, I'd like to make a motion to adopt this, and then it will have to be signed by us and signed by them, and then, there's no questions about how this works. So I'd like to make a motion to approve this agreement between the library and the school district.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thank you, Chuck, for your patience.
Yes.
No,
Perseverance.
all of us.
Yeah.
This was a team effort.
The one thing I want to say, and I said this earlier, is I think something that happens with the school district is they change administrations, and so we don't change as much as they do. And so when they change, new people come in, they have a different understanding, et cetera, et cetera. So to the extent that we can do agreements like this and kind of make them part of the infrastructure, I think that's helpful because it stands the test of time of all their different changes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So if there are other critical functions.
Yeah, if there's other critical functions that we have to do with them ever, I think we should always try to
Formalize them.
Yeah.
Get it in writing,
I
as
hate
they
to
say.
say it, but it's
It's true.
It's true.
want to mention the bond band and our vote in April.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just mention, and we have to set a date, the Finance Committee to convene. We will, make a recommendation about, we either have to roll our, as I think I alluded to before in the budget discussion, we either have to roll our bond anticipation note or more likely convert it into a longer-term bond, and we will expect to make a recommendation, and then I think we need to make a recommendation and vote on that in April so that we give plenty of time to all parties involved, as stipulated in our new agreement, to actually effectuate the financing. So that's more just a preview. I don't think we have anything else. And you already did Personnel Committee. Does the Policy Committee? I know we had so many policies last time.
Good.
Okay,
Got like
so
a
nothing from
3-month
the
hiatus.
Policy Committee. And then the Special Projects Committee, is there any update on the broadcasting of the meetings?
Actually, yes, first of all, of course, we're in the process of talking with the New Rochelle High School, Steve Brown, to get our meetings broadcast on the educational channel. I had an intense conversation last week, have not had a chance this week. I think there's been some weather and some other issues, but we're on the cusp of getting our broadcast on this educational channel. We've had a lot of support from the city, Kathy Gilwood, John Misowitz, and also our videographer, Laura, who's out there taping as we speak.
And her husband.
Great job, and her husband, Philip. So that's good news. The other good news is that, as you folks know, the city has decided in principle to grant us $25,000 from PEG monies in order that we purchase our own system here in the library that will be stationed here, but also has a mobile component too. And Kathy Gilwood just forwarded to me today, this afternoon, the agreement as authorized by the legal department for the city of New Rochelle. We forwarded to our attorney for his consideration, and will come back to us, and hopefully we'll have the ability to vote on it at the April meeting, which will mean once this is in place, we can move forward with a public bid for the specs that we put together for the equipment. So we're almost there.
PEG, is that the cable company?
It's the cable company's monetary
That pay to
contribution to the city.
And that's how we're ending up with this piece.
Exactly, because this is a public service.
It's a public education grant, I think,
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Public education
yeah.
grant. And so the city has given us a green light. We're very excited about that opportunity. And again, I just want to say that this was a great opportunity to cooperate with Kathy Gilwood, John Misowitz, and City Manager Chuck Strom. It's been good.
Wonderful.
Grant, I think, public education.
Better than PIG.
Yeah.
PEG, P-E-G.
No,
Yeah.
So
The other would be bad.
Peg on my heart.
Any other items? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.